What's up, guys? I'm here with Sean. What we're going to try and do is, after the Sunday updates, is answer some questions that you guys might have. You guys can post your questions on the SHF community page, and what we'll do is we'll just take them from there. We have a separate sheet of paper that we're going to list them on. And we try and do like 4 or 5 questions a week that we can get really personal with you guys and answer some of the more common questions. So, Sean and I went through some of the questions. We picked out 5 that we're going to answer. So, let's get started.
First question is from Jay Losa. And he asks, how many days a week should I work out?
Well, it depends on what your goal is, Jay, because like someone like me or Sean, we like doing muscle gain routines, okay? When you're doing muscle gain routines, you're going to split your body parts up into different sections. Some people like to do one body part a day. Some people like to do a couple body parts a day. But regardless, if you're doing a muscle gain routine, you need to split your body parts into parts. If you're doing circuit training, you can split your body up. You can do a full body workout one day. You can split your body into spheres like upper body, lower body, front and back, or just take all your muscles and divide them in whatever which way you want. But if you're doing a full body routine one day, say Monday's full body routine, the next day you might just do like half hour, 45 minutes of cardio, and then on the third day do the full body routine again. Like there's all kinds of ways to split it up, and Sean can elaborate some more on that too.
Definitely. It definitely depends on your goals and what you're trying to do. I think if you're trying to gain weight, you should try to stick to maybe 3 days a week. I usually tell people 3 days a week. It depends on your metabolism as well. So if you're an ectomorph, you definitely don't need to work out 5, 6, 7 days a week because you're going to burn a ton of calories and you're really going to have a hard time putting on any weight at all. But if you are looking to burn fat and say you're an endomorph, you're someone who's a little bit bigger and puts on fat easy, you may be able to work out 7 days a week. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily work out for 2 hours 7 days a week, but you can get away with stuff like that if you have a hard time losing weight.
Yeah.
So definitely depends on your goals, but the average person, I would say, should work out 3 to 5 days a week.
Yeah, and there's definitely something called training too much. So you don't need to be in the gym for 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah,
okay?
overtraining.
Like maybe 2 hours max, and that's if you're just kind of taking your time in between sets. But
even still, I'd say
even still, like you can be in and out of the gym in 45 minutes to an hour.
15 minutes, yeah.
What you want to do is you want to maximize your workouts. If you're doing, say you're doing circuit training, and I'll answer it this way because a lot of people ask the best way to circuit train. If you don't know what circuit training is, it's total body training. All the BA10, 2010 workouts are like that. The Beat Me Down workouts are like that. But if you're circuit training and you're trying to tone and lose weight, you want to do like a 15-minute cardio warm-up to get your heart rate up, and then jump on the floor for like 45 minutes and just bang right through the exercises. And you're out of there in an hour. That's all it takes. You burn more calories on the floor working out than you do doing cardio.
So we're going to go to the next question.
Thanks,
next
Jay.
question is from Aaron Hafer. And he asks, can you burn fat and gain muscle at the same time?
Now that's a trick question because you will burn fat when you're trying to gain muscle and vice versa. However, I'm sure Sean will agree with me, it depends on what your goal is. For example, if your goal is to gain muscle, you don't want to be doing toning exercise routines. You don't want to be doing circuit training. But while you're trying to rip and tear that muscle fiber to make it grow, you're obviously burning calories, and you're obviously going to utilize fat for energy during your workouts and throughout the day. So you're going to burn fat. But it's not like you're geared that workout towards putting your body in a caloric deficit, which is where you're burning more calories than you're taking in. When you're trying to muscle gain, you're gaining more you're eating more calories than you're burning. So the amount of fat you burn or the amount of muscle you gain is going to differ depending on what your goal is.
Definitely. I think it's important that people focus on one thing or the other. It's possible, it depends again on your genetics. It depends on how you naturally adapt to working out. Because some people you may see, they naturally have muscle and they burn fat like that, and mesomorphic type of people. But I think you should, if you really want to gain size, try to gain the size. Like say you're trying to do a bodybuilding type of routine. Gain the size. You're gonna gain fat if you get bigger. There's no doubt in my mind that you're gonna gain at least a little bit of fat, even if you have great genetics. So I think it's important that you focus on one thing and you do that, and then say you gain the weight and then you cut off 10 pounds of fat afterwards. that's your goal at that point. So you gain the weight, you get the muscle, you put that on, and you cut. But it is possible, like I said, it is possible for you to gain muscle and burn fat at the same time. But you're probably not going to get huge gains as far as gaining muscle goes if you're focused on, keeping a really low body fat the whole time. Staying 5 to 10% the whole time.
Yeah, and make sure you guys focus on your body fat percentage and not your weight, because it's quite possible that you might only notice a pound or two difference in your weight, but if you did your body fat, you might have gained, 4 or 5 pounds of muscle and lost 3 pounds of fat. So make sure you guys keep that in mind as well.
Well, next question is from Sarona Taj, and it is a big question. I think a lot of people ask all the time. It's a supplement question. Is creatine good or bad?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people asking this question, and to be quite honest, I don't know much about creatine. I never used it, never wanted to use it. I had friends that used it, and for me, it depends on what your goal is. Again, it depends on what your goal is and how extreme of an athlete you are. My goal is to always be ripped, and my friends in high school, when I was in high school, who were taking it, one of my friends was taking it religiously, and he got super big, but he was more rounded, more pudgy. He held a lot more water than he probably should have, just because he was taking probably too much. And he started getting stretch marks because he wasn't using it correctly. And I just kind of steered my way from it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the results my friend was having with it. But I mean, extreme athletes like gymnasts, they use creatine because creatine does help you hold water. And when you're doing an extreme sport and you're training for like 4 hours a day, you don't have time to hit the water bubbler, every 10 minutes. So the creatine on someone like a gymnast, like gymnasts are ripped, but the creatine in their body, gets utilized to its maximum potential because it allows them to retain water so they're not dehydrated while they're doing their routines.
That's a great point. I think that's a really good point. And it is very important to stay hydrated if you're working out in general. But if you're going to be taking creatine, you want to have a lot of water. You don't have a ton of water in your diet. I personally think creatine's a good thing. I've taken creatine. I've taken a few different forms. You have you have a creatine phosphate. You have the AKGs, the ethyl esters. I've gotten good results with all of them. The newer one I think would be an AKG. There's probably newer ones now. But I personally have noticed strength gains, better pumps. I get more reps, so more muscular endurance. There's a lot of myths about creatine making you only gain water weight and stuff like that. And people are like, oh, it's only water weight. And what I say to that, because that sounds basically dumb, is that we're made up of water. Not only that, you need water in order for your cells, especially your muscular cells, to work the right way. So by forcing more water into your cells, you actually get more out of your workouts and out of your muscles in general. This is something I could go on about all day. Creatine is good. It will help you put on muscle. Yes, you might put on some water weight, but for those of you who know, water weight comes off like that. It really isn't that tough. You'll get more reps. You'll be stronger, and even if you look at there's been hundreds of studies. It's totally safe.
Yeah.
Some people.
As long as you use it as intended.
Yeah.
If you use it as intended, as the product says to use it, you will get benefits from it.
Don't snort creatine.
Yeah, don't snort creatine.
But also, some people they'll go on it for a cycle of 6 weeks, and then they'll go off it for say 2 weeks and go back on. Some people now are staying on it all the time. All they're doing is there's a loading phase you can go on to help saturate your muscles in the creatine, and some people stay on it and then they'll just resaturate. They'll go through a reloading phase every 6 weeks, and a lot of professional athletes use it. It's very it's naturally occurring in the body. It's not like a foreign substance. It's something that your body naturally produces. It's in your brain, it's in your heart, it's in your lungs. So your body does have creatine in it already, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, and also too, it's a supplement. So a supplement only works if it's supplementing an already in place meal plan and you're already doing the right things, like drinking water and eating correctly. And if you're working out, not intense, you're not going to take creatine and all of a sudden turn into Mr. Olympia, okay? You need to amp up the workouts, make sure you're pushing it extremely hard in the gym, and get the work done.
Next question.
Next question
is from Hector, Uriel, Burela. Excuse me if I botch your names, guys. It is how do I avoid getting dizzy or lightheaded while working out? I get dizzy and lightheaded pretty often. It's not like I'm overworking myself.
It's a good question. There could be a lot of things to be the reason why you might get dizzy or lightheaded. A lot of times when people first start out in the gym, if their body's not used to doing circuit training where, say you do an upper body exercise and then go into a lower body exercise, like your body might not be used to the blood flow going from upper body to lower body, and that can cause you to get lightheaded. If you're holding your breath, if you're not eating correctly, I mean, there's a ton of reasons why. But I mean, I would, if it's happening a lot, make sure you check with your doctor, physician to make sure there's like nothing going on inside you internally. But I mean, there's plenty of reasons why.
Yeah, I agree. I think if it's intense and you're like passing out, you should maybe if you have insurance, it's a good idea to talk to your physician and ask them, to do some tests or just ask for their advice. But what I personally would say is, make sure you're breathing properly. A lot of times when I'm working with people, they tend to they hold their breath. They don't breathe the right way. What happens is as you start to breathe, your oxygen comes in, goes through your blood, and moves a certain way. But as you start to hold your breath or breathe in irregular patterns, sometimes your blood will kind of do a little jump.
Yeah.
And that's usually not good for the brain too. So make sure you're breathing the right way. What I tell people...
Make sure you're drinking water while you work out too.
Drink the water too. You could be dehydrated. What I tell people is when you move against gravity, when you exert, that is when you exhale. When you come down with gravity, usually on a negative part of emotion, that's when you start to breathe in. Now, there's other breathing techniques I use as you start to get more intense with your workouts, but that's the basics. So whenever
you guys have seen mine, the loud that I do.
Spit all over.
It's actually, a lot of the people watching the videos make fun of me for breathing like that, but it's actually, I do it for a reason. I don't really understand why it's okay to scream your brains out and punch your fist through 7 cinder blocks, but if you're lifting a ton of weight and you make a little yell, all of a sudden it's not cool. Well, there's a reason why they scream before crowded people smash their face through cinder blocks, and there's a reason why I yell before I'm curling 135. So
I don't scream before I smash my face through a cinder. I'm just kidding. But also what I want to say was if you're doing jumping exercises or really intense running, stuff like that. I'm not saying you're overworking yourself, but if you're moving around like that, some people, if I have them do up downs and they're down the floor and they get up real quick, they'll get lightheaded immediately, and then they get disoriented. Some people you have them do a lot of moving around or a new workout that they're not used to, they can get a vertigo.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I used to get lightheaded running up. I'm out of breath running upstairs, and then. I'm in great shape. I can't even talk. I never figured out why until maybe last year, and it's because, I would go to visit my friend Scott, and it's 4 flights, and I would run up the 4 flights and be really out of breath. I'm like, why am I out of breath? And because I was holding my breath the whole time running up the stairs, I wasn't breathing. I was like, man, I gotta breathe when I start running upstairs. It's just when you're a kid, sometimes you hold your breath and it sticks with you. So. Breathe. You might think you're breathing, but you're probably not breathing enough.
Definitely. A lot of people who exert themselves, they don't even realize they're not breathing.
So let's go on. Let's move on to our 5th and final question for today.
I know that doing a lot of cardio, 1 hour or more, and weightlifting at the same time is counterproductive. Is it less counterproductive if I do cardio first, then weights?
Well, it's not. The question obviously doesn't really get into what you're weightlifting for, whether your goal is to gain muscle or lose fat. Cardio is not the answer to weight loss. Cardio is a tool used to get your body into its fat-burning mode. Okay, it's a lot easier for you to maximize how many calories you're going to burn if your heart rate is already at its pace where you're utilizing fat for energy. Usually it's between 150 to 170 for most people. What you do is a 15-minute warm-up on the cardio. Then once you're on the floor, your heart rate's already going, your body's warmed up, and then you circuit train, and you're going to maximize the amount of calories and the amount of fat you utilize for energy while on the floor. But for someone like me who, my main goal is to gain muscle, doing cardio, and from what even from my own experience, if I do a 15-minute cardio warm-up and then I go do a super heavy set for like a chest press, I can't lift as much as I normally do because it puts your body into a different state.
Yeah, you definitely, you've already gone into some of your stores as far as your energy goes, so you've used it at that point. I think if you're gonna do, a cardio and weightlifting type of routine, I would definitely save the cardio for last. If you can't get to the gym more than once a day, or you can't work out more than once a day, I would leave the cardio at the end, and that's what I do with most of the people I work with.
What do you recommend, the warm up in the gym?
Yeah, it depends. Especially on like a leg day, I'll do a 5-minute warm up on the bike.
I guess. Well, then I guess at the end of the day, you really got to learn your body.
Yeah, that you definitely have to know what works best for you. What works best for us may not may not be ideal for your body, but it is crucial that you do things a certain way. We're not saying the way we do things is exact and right on for you, but this is just some advice. These are just some tips for you guys, so that you understand that there are certain things. Like I said, if you don't want to use all your energy and do all that cardio in the beginning, just do it at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And like I do run. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do run. Like I don't use cardio as a way to get ripped. Like I have ripped abs, whatever. It's not because I'm hammering the cardio. I barely do cardio. If I do any cardio, I do it once a week, and I do it on a Sunday. And the main reason why I'm doing it, and I run like 6 or 7 miles. I run up and down like a main road by where I live. It's therapeutic for me. When on Sundays, like my day to like relax, or late at night, I like to run late at night. I do it because it's the only way I can get out of the house, away from all the work that I have to do, and I can just like think about stuff in my head of what I need to get done.
And you don't do your weight training and your cardio at the same time.
No, I barely do. Like sometimes I might feel like I want to go for a quick jog. I'll finish a crazy routine, but then if I run, I'm only running for like 10-15 minutes. But like if I run on the treadmill, I like to put it on almost like the closest to high speed. Like if it goes to 12, I'll have it on 10 or 11, and I'll just like sprint on it for a bit because I get bored.
Yeah.
But like everyone's different. Like I wouldn't expect you guys to do that. You really gotta take the time. Start going to the gym. Start, trying different ways to train. You might not get it the first time. Try doing like a 10-minute warm-up, maybe 7-minute, maybe 15-minute. Figure out what works best for your body. Learn your body. Listen to your body. Meditate if you have to. I don't care. Just figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop burning incense before you go to the gym, and just let your body tell you what it wants.
I would, if you're gonna do an intense cardio session and intense weightlifting session, I would recommend separating it into 2 different sessions throughout the day, or just learning how to separate them throughout the week, so you can get enough calories in between those, so you can really get the most out of what you do and have your workouts be really efficient.
And just remember, sweating does not mean you're burning fat. Okay, so if you're sweating on the cardio, it's because your body has to cool itself down. That's like a body. Your body's like what it does. When you're hot, you sweat because that's a cooling process. Doesn't mean there's fat like coming off of you. So keep that in mind too. Because I barely sweat.
Rondo doesn't sweat.
No, he doesn't.
It's really weird. He did watch Game 7. Everyone watch Game 7. He doesn't sweat at all. If he has sweat on him, it's probably from someone else. It's really strange.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to look forward to answering more of your questions for you as the weeks go on. We're going to do our best to try and do these every Sunday. Either post a link from the Sunday update, or we'll post this video individually depending on how long they go. But we'll try and keep them reasonable so you guys can get right to the questions. Okay? So, yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks. We appreciate all you guys. We appreciate your support. And, as always, more good stuff coming
GFL.
soon. Later, guys.